Have you ever felt like changing the world required some huge, heroic act? Well, today, we're going to look at a totally different idea, that resistance isn't some single event, but a living, breathing system that we can all be a part of every single day. Let's dive into this ecology of resistance. This quote right here gets straight to the point. It's asking us to reimagine everything we thought we knew. From a big public boycott all the way down to a quiet, personal no. The idea is that these aren't just random, isolated tactics. They're all connected. They're part of a shared language, a grammar of action that we can all learn to speak. It's a really powerful shift in perspective. And this is the core idea we're digging into today, the ecology of resistance. Try to think of it less like a simple checklist of good or bad actions, and more like a map of a living ecosystem. In this system, every single action, no matter how small it seems, plays a vital role in the health of the entire thing. So, where do we even start on this ecological map? Well, we begin with the simplest and honestly the most overlooked form of power that every single one of us has. It's the power of no. And in this framework, it's expressed through something called acts of omission. So, acts of omission. This isn't about being passive. Not at all. It's the conscious, deliberate art of withdrawing our participation. It's about realizing that our consent, our attention, our energy, it's a resource, and we get to choose where we put it, and, just as importantly, where we take it away. I mean, this quote just nails it, right? Withdrawing our consent is this foundational power that so many of us completely forget we have. It doesn't require a megaphone or a protest sign. It starts with a quiet, internal decision to just stop going along with something, to stop feeding our energy and our resources into systems we just don't believe in. Okay, so what does this actually look like in real life? Well, it could be as simple as canceling a subscription to a corporation whose practices you don't agree with, or refusing to work that exploitative overtime, or even just quietly protecting your personal data. Now, these might not feel like grand, dramatic gestures, but they are absolutely powerful acts of non-compliance. Each one quietly chips away at the foundations of these systems. But look, saying no is only half the story. When we withdraw our support, we create a void, right? An open space. So the next step in this ecology is to decide what we want to build in that space. And that brings us to the second, really proactive pillar of this framework, the art of creation. And this is where we get to acts of commission. This is the creative other half to refusal. It's that pivot point where we stop just reacting against something and start proactively building the world we actually want to live in. And this right here. This is a huge shift in how we think about this stuff. Resistance stops being something that's purely reactive and it becomes an act of design. It's not just about opposition anymore. It's about creation. It's about actively building a different world. We become the architects of the alternatives. And the possibilities here are, well, they're endless and they're deeply human. It can mean anything from teaching a skill you have to building a mutual aid network for your neighbors, to joining organized actions like boycotts or just supporting a local food co-op. Every single one of these acts of creation is another building block for a different, more resilient system. Okay, so we've got these two types of action, refusal and creation. But how do they fit together? This is where this ecological model really starts to challenge the old way of thinking about activism. Think about the old model for a second, the hierarchical ladder. It tends to value only the most visible, high-risk actions. It creates heroes, and that leaves everyone else as just a spectator. And honestly, it's fragile. You take out the leaders and it can all fall apart. Now, compare that to the ecological landscape. It values all forms of participation. It's a web, not a ladder. And that makes it resilient, because power isn't in one place. It's decentralized, it's distributed everywhere.
This quote just sums it all up, doesn't it? Resistance isn't some ladder we're all trying to climb to become a hero. We're all already living inside this landscape of action. So the real goal is just to inhabit that landscape, to find our own unique place and our own way to contribute to the health of the entire ecosystem.
And that is the absolute beauty of the web. A quiet refusal to share your data might create the space for an organizer to act more safely. A community garden nourishes the exact same spirit as a massive protest. Every single act strengthens the whole network. They all feed into each other. Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, right? But how do we actually make it real?
How do we turn this big abstract idea into something we do every day? So this is where you can really see that direct connection in action. Notice how an act of refusal, it creates the need and the opportunity for an act of creation. So you withhold your data from some big platform. Well, that invites you to teach your neighbors about digital security. You cancel a subscription to a harmful corporation. That opens the door to forming something like a local credit circle. You see? They're two sides of the same coin, refusal and creation, in this constant dance.
And that's what this is all about, really. The goal isn't one big top-down revolution. The goal is to cultivate millions of these small, decentralized, creative, and persistent acts that, when you put them all together, they start to shift the entire system from the ground up.
So let's make this real for a second. This brings us to the first practical question for you. Just look at your day, your routines, your habits. Where is there one small, quiet opportunity for you to just say no?
And then, here's the follow-up. Based on that no, what space just opened up? Where can you apply your skills, your time, your energy to create something positive in its place? You know, maybe the most powerful takeaway from all of this is this final thought. This whole ecological framework. It suggests that engaging in these acts of refusal and creation isn't some sacrifice of our well-being. Far from it. It's the very foundation of it. It's how we begin, together, to build a world where we can all truly thrive.